Hello, hello, and welcome to our community spotlight. Today, we're having a conversation brought to you by Literary Pittsburgh, Catapult Greater Pittsburgh, and Tammy Thompson Consulting. We're going to be talking about the myths and facts surrounding the GED test here in Pennsylvania. And it's very important that we're having this conversation because literacy, education, and engagement for adults is an issue that is very important to so many people in Pennsylvania. According to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, 13% of Pennsylvania adults lack basic literary skills. And on average, adults with the lowest level of literacy are almost 10 times more likely to be living at or below the poverty line. In general, 14% of adult Americans demonstrated a below basic literacy level. And when we're talking about the GED program, Pennsylvania has one of the largest populations of individuals who are trying to attain a primary education degree or equivalent. And so it's very important that we understand that Pennsylvania has a large proportion of people with less than a high school degree at 34.7%. And so there are some programs that we're going to be talking with you for the next hour that are available to you and your family to help you attain your GED, to help you strengthen your literacy programs, literacy skill set through these programs that are available to you and your family at little to no cost. And so for this hour, we're going to be talking with Keisha Young, who is not only a graduate of the Pittsburgh Literacy GED program, but is also an employee at Catapult Greater Pittsburgh, which is a nonprofit organization that seeks to build economic and generational wealth for the community. After that, we'll have a conversation with Tammy Thompson, who runs Catapult Pittsburgh and is also a consultant around issues of economic justice, particularly within the Black community. And so then we have some conversations about why it's so important that adults who may have been left behind during, the high school education process are able to get a GED and some of the benefits that comes to you when you attain a GED. And at the end, we're going to be bringing on Dan, who actually works with Literacy Pittsburgh, to talk about some of the processes and procedures that go with enrolling in the GED program so that you're able to have an informed decision when you're looking at what is the best program for you or your family member to participate in. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. We will try to get involved, bring you in, and through those questions, you can put them on the Facebook or the YouTube links. So with that, our first guest is going to be Keisha Young, who is a Literacy Pittsburgh grad and it currently works at Catapult Pittsburgh, who's going to talk to us about going through the program and what motivated her to get her GED. So with that, welcome Ms. Keisha to the program.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. And so can you just talk about a little bit about your journey and what led you to getting your GED?
Sure. So my journey has been an emotional roller coaster. I dropped out of school at the age 16. By that time, I already had my oldest son, Makai. He was 1 year old at that time. And my life was just spiraling out of control really fast. I was in and out of trouble. And I just, I kind of gave up at that moment. Yeah.
And so you said your life was out of control, you gave up, and so you dropped out of high school. What was it like trying to navigate life without a high school diploma or a GED?
It was so hard. I felt like I was, hiding something. I felt like I was faking it kind of. Anytime I want to go look for a job, I had to, the first question that comes up almost is, do you have a high school diploma? So I always felt discouraged immediately just from the point of just looking for a job without having my diploma.
And so, how did you find out about the GED program?
I think I always knew of Literacy Pittsburgh. I think one night I was up at night and I was just thinking about my problems and, how I can solve these problems. And I Googled evening GED classes in Pittsburgh, PA, and Literacy Pittsburgh was, one of the first organizations that popped up. And the very next day I just called the number and I was invited to come into the next orientation. And at that orientation, I was given the opportunity to the option either to join a class or to see a tutor to work through all my barriers into getting this GED.
And so how welcoming was that environment for you? Because you were talking about, you're going through these things, you're feeling like embarrassed, but now you have this program that is offering you this like individualized or community support. So how was that process for you?
That process was actually great. I was nervous going into it and I wasn't sure if this would be the time that I actually stuck through with it, but everyone was very welcoming and very nice and supportive throughout the whole process, which made it completely, made it easier. Once I got tested, there was someone who would, send me tips and tricks on, how to pass my test and strategies on the process and like which test I would take first.
And so for people who are not as familiar with like the GED process, can you talk a little bit about the test? What are some of the subjects the test covers? And then I'll follow up with asking about some of the test prep.
Sure. So the GED test there's 4 sections. There's your math, there's your reading, there's your science, and there's your social studies. You don't have to take everything at one time. For me, I knew math and science would be the hardest for me, so I kind of just went with those 2 first. But there's a website called GED.com, so they also have the practice test on there too. So I kind of like went back and forth with talking to my tutor and going on GED.com to kind of see, to get a feel for things. But yeah, it was really easy. It didn't feel easy at the moment, but yeah, now that I could look back on it, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have did this, and that, but it was really simple. They made it really simple for me.
And so for someone who is in a similar situation that you were in when you started your GED program, what is something that you want them to know about getting the GED as an adult and moving on to the next phase of your life?
I think I would say if it's something that's on your mind, something you've been thinking of, then you definitely can do it. And try not to be hard on yourself because there's no one timing you to say you have to have it by this date, you have to have it by that date. And no matter when you do get it, the accomplishment still feels great. I still feel good. So, yeah.
And you said that, there were some things that you wish you would have done differently. When you were studying, what were some of those tips that you would like to give people who are currently studying for the GED or are working towards that in the future?
It's weird. Like I said, I started out I focused on the hardest part first. But I honestly think now that if I would have just took what I knew first, if I would have started with the easier part first, I think it would have motivated me to keep pressing on sooner because, once I went in, I took my first test, I felt so good. I was like, I'm not giving up now. I'm going to go in and take the second. And that's, once I took the second, I felt the same about the third and the fourth. So I just wish I would have focused on what I knew, the parts that I knew would be easier first than the harder parts.
And you talked about when you signed up, they asked you if you wanted a tutor or, the classes. What process did you take?
I took the tutoring. I felt like I worked better one-on-one than in a group. So I was happy that they offered that. And it was just kind of like having my own, like a fitness trainer, like someone's keeping in touch with me often, even if I was not, feeling motivated at that time. Someone, I had my tutor to reach out like, hey, what's up? Like, what are we doing today?
Yeah, so kind of like an accountability partner a
Yeah.
little bit. And so you're going through this process. What are some of the ways? I know you said you were taking this when you got the results from the test, that kind of motivated you. But what were some of the things that were motivating you to go to these classes with your tutor, to do the practice test, to go to GED.com? What kept you motivated while you were getting this test done?
I still been asking myself that because I always felt like I wanted it the same, since I dropped out of school, I've always wanted my education. I don't feel like any more or less. It felt like it was just time. I was tired of hiding things. And then it was like the more I surrounded myself with positive, supportive people and seeing everything that they're accomplishing and all the opportunities that would be out there for me, it really motivated me more to want to just do it. I seen that there was something else out there for me than I didn't see before.
And you talked about some of those opportunities, being denied to you before. Can you go a little more into detail about like some of the job requirements and how having a GED now has been able to make you more competitive in the market?
Yeah, like I feel like number one, just I think more so it's the discouragement before you start into something, knowing, okay, I don't have my diploma. So now my body language, my confidence and everything is already really, really low. So I just feel like my mindset changed a lot, but back then I felt, like I couldn't do it. So that's probably why I didn't do it. I just felt like it wasn't possible. And that, once someone found out that I didn't have my diploma, I was going to be fired or, who knows?
Mm-hmm. And so when you got the notice that you had passed, what was that moment like?
It felt surreal. It didn't feel real. I thought I would be like jumping up and I thought I would cry. I thought I would do all types of things, but I was just kind of like stunned. Like I could have been did this, like I was just like, wow, like it didn't take as many times as I thought it would or anything. Like it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be before I actually done it.
Mm-hmm. And so had you known people who had went to the GED process before?
Not anyone personally, I don't think. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone that I know who actually went through with it.
Okay. And I know you were saying that like with the Literacy Pittsburgh program, there was a group, you did the mentoring, one-on-one. What were some of the other resources they provided you? Because you talked about the GED.com website that kind of allowed you to do even more self-directed learning. But what other resources and encouragement did they provide for you?
So I'm not exactly sure of the terms that they had, but there was two people. There was this guy, his name was Vince, and he was like more like a counselor, I guess. For me, he was the person I would reach out to if I had any questions or if I felt like I needed a new book. So they had like the materials, they had the books there for you. They had different techniques on how to, go about a certain problem. And just also sending me resources for anything else I may have needed. Because sometimes it's not that you don't want to get your GED. Sometimes you can have more pressing matters at home, like utilities do. So they had someone that would send me other resources, like, do you need food? Do you need this? Do you need that? And it was just like really, really helpful and supportive.
And so talking about these like wraparound services that are like so important to kind of reduce some of the stress and pressure. Was that even more important to you as you're a mom, you're working, you're trying? Did that make you even feel like more comfortable with like the program and the organization because they were investing so much into you?
It did a lot. Absolutely. I would say it did, because these were things that I did not sign up for, that they were reaching out to me about to see if I needed it. So it showed me that they really did care about what I was going through and having things in place to help me reach my goals and make sure I didn't fail.
And that's, no, I think that's like so important. And you
Mhm.
talked about, the having a supportive environment. Can you talk a little bit before we bring Miss Tammy on? Just talk a little bit about how important that community and family support was for you during this process.
It was so important because we can, I can be my own worst critic sometimes. I can, because this is a shame that I have felt for so long. I'm the one feeling it. So I can't see a better side. I can't see a more positive side to things. And, even from being younger and being around so many negative people, you don't think that there are positive people out there like that, people who do want to see you win and people who do want to support you. So being around that and putting myself around that helped me tremendously because every step of the way, I knew I wasn't by myself. And if I did decide to give up, I wouldn't just be letting myself down. I'll be letting my kids down, my mom down, my friends down, my tutor down. Everyone who's been investing into me, I would have felt like I was letting them down.
Mhm. And I'm so very happy that you had such a supportive system.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you have like your GED, what are some of the takeaways that you want to make sure that another person has, whether it's like how they personally view themselves or
Yeah.
what, go ahead.
Um, I would say first is the self-satisfaction that you feel like, I've accomplished something, I'm responsible, I've actually done this. It feels so good to yourself first. Um, and then, of course, the higher education, the career opportunities, and even socializing. I feel like I socialize more now because I'm not, hiding and constantly thinking of what I'm not even listening to what other people are thinking of most of the time. I'm in my own head about my own problems, and now I don't have to do that anymore. So I feel amazing.
And then my last question, kind of referencing how you talked about in the very beginning, for employers who are watching, people in the business community who are engaging, what are some tips that you want to give them so that they're not creating situations where people feel alienated because they haven't obtained certain levels of education?
I would say there is so much talent out there. So many people have so many skills that they haven't tapped into yet, especially when it starts off like from a young age, you're already feeling like you didn't accomplish what you should have accomplished. So I would say that there's a lot of talent out there, and I'm one of them. Like I was able to fake it till I made it for a very, very long time. So that says something. It says that people, even someone out there who is working on getting their GED, they're still worthy enough to be at the table and
Mhm.
in those environments. So, yeah.
Yes, you are more than worthy. And we thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing your story. So I want to bring and add to the conversation, bring in Ms. Tammy Thompson, because I want to talk about some of the work that you all are doing at Catapult, Greater Pittsburgh. And while we wait for Tammy to join us, can you just tell us a little bit of what Catapult does, Keisha?
Oh, I'm sorry, me.
Mhm.
So Catapult Greater Pittsburgh is dedicated to um, economic justice opportunities for families and individuals. Um, we have many programs from home ownership, financial education, our resource center. We pretty much have things in place to support people to reach their long-term goal. That's our goal.
Perfect. And so, Miss Tammy, how proud of you?
Listen, I've been sitting back here trying not to cry and I'm not, because I did my face today. So I can't be messing up my face. But, I think you can see Keisha, first and foremost, has always been brilliant. From being a little girl, just brilliant. And she, for me, she's an inspiration to me. I think it takes a certain level of courage and strength to go through a lot of the things that Keisha has gone through. We both have being a teenage parent in common, right? So, we've made some generational mistakes. And we've not always made the right decisions, but one thing that I think we have in common, and I'm so proud of her, is she never gave up. you know, she's been through so much that she could have easily just quit and gave up and just never tried to accomplish this thing that has always been really, really important to her. You know, yes, she dropped out of school. Yes, all of my children dropped out of school. And I'll tell you, as a parent, that has been one of the bigger regrets, one of the bigger things that sits so heavily on me is that that was the one thing I couldn't control. It was the one thing that I just, no matter how hard I tried, I could not stay on top of my game on getting my kids through high school. And now, as somebody who studies poverty and who spends a great deal of time pushing back against these negative narratives around people in poverty and people who are working really, really hard, you know, sometimes I have to give myself some of the same information that I'm giving other people. You know, guilt is nothing but a barrier to you moving forward. Right. So, although as a mom, I do have a certain amount of guilt, I do also have a certain amount of grace for myself because I understand the challenges that I faced as a parent. Listen, I had 5 children by the time I was 22 years old. I was not emotionally or financially or psychologically equipped to raise these children by myself. But I did the best that I could. You know, and when they reached a certain age, you know, imagine having 5 teenagers under one roof as a single parent, living in poverty, right? And lots of trauma, lots of stuff. And you know, but I was working 2.5 jobs sometimes. I was trying to go to college and get my degree myself, which I didn't complete because I had to choose work and supporting my family over getting my degree. But of all the things that I regret the most, it was not being able to split myself in enough pieces and create enough hours in a day to do all of these things that I had to do to support my family and make sure that they were getting what they needed educationally. So we have a ton of educational trauma. You know, there's a ton of trauma. And although I take the brunt of the burden of that and I take accountability and responsibility for my shortcomings in that space, I can tell you that the education system failed us as well. So there were a lot of failures to go around, but Keisha, I think, is doing something for this family that she doesn't realize that she's doing. She is inspiring her siblings to do what they need to do to get their GED so that they can move forward as well. And I listened to what Keisha said. Listen, just because she didn't have that piece of paper did not mean that she didn't have the talent, the skills, the drive, and everything else that she needed to be successful in the workplace. It is one of the reasons why she is right down the hall from me right now, right? It's one of the reasons why we hired her. It's because, not because she's my daughter, because Keisha can tell you better than anybody. There are no, you know, I don't give out opportunity to people who haven't earned it. And she earned the opportunity. She actually, I introduced her to Maylene Myers of ELDI, who actually gave her a job before I did. I wanted to see how she could handle it. How, you know, was she ready? Was she really ready to go into the workplace and learn the things that she needed to learn? And she, not only did she just blow everybody out of the water, she has been an inspiration to the bulk of our staff. She is capable, more than capable. And I'm so happy that she finally sees that she has gained the confidence. And that was the only thing she was lacking. And there was nothing else that she was lacking in other than the confidence to see herself as everybody else sees her, as an amazingly talented, strong, courageous woman. We honestly could not do what we do without her talent on this staff. So I'm more than, I can't, proud is not the word. But I'm happy to be able to start pulling Keisha into having these conversations publicly, because I don't know if she understands how inspirational she is and how many other individuals and families and parents are out there who have felt this guilt and who have felt this shame, um, who are allowing the guilt and shame to be an obstacle and a barrier to them moving forward. And so I'm so happy that she agreed to share her story, because I know for a fact there are many others who need to hear what she has to say and who need to understand that this is just the beginning, right? And this Literacy Pittsburgh program is so phenomenal. And Keisha was just always updating me and talking to me about the amazing mentor that she had. I'm so thankful that she found folks. Because, here's the reality. As a mom, I can say something over and over and over and over again, right? I can be saying the exact same thing that somebody else is saying, but I'm her mom. So, she thinks that I'm saying these things because I have to, but when they need to hear it sometimes from somebody else, somebody unbiased, somebody with an outside perspective. So I'm just so thankful that she found that in Literacy Pittsburgh. And I was just really excited to take part in this conversation, because I need people who are listening to this to understand that just because you stumble, just because you fall, does not mean you have to stay down. There's so many opportunities out here for us, but we have to take the first step. We have to recognize that the opportunities are out there for us. And regardless of how we might feel about ourselves, and trust me, I've been there, I've been there. Opportunity is out there. We just have to go get it. And we have to do what Keisha did and build a tribe of people around you who want to see you win. And parents, yes, it is heartbreaking. I think every parent wants to sit in a stadium and watch their child walk across the stage and get that high school diploma. But if they don't get it, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. We still have to support them and encourage them and urge them to continue to move forward and take advantage of the opportunities that do still exist for them. And I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. As long as God gives you the breath to take every day, there's still a chance. There's still a chance for you to accomplish these things that you thought you could not accomplish. And so I'm just super excited, and I can't wait to see what Keisha does next. I can guarantee you, if you don't write her name down today, she's just getting started. And if I have anything to do with it, people will never forget who she is, and people will continue to be inspired by her.
That's amazing to hear, and thank you so much. And again, I want to repeat what you said, like giving yourself, grace, because it's very important, that we don't let what we perceive as mistakes or failures really weigh us down, particularly, as Black people who are living in these systems of like white supremacy and anti-Blackness is very important. Like you said, looking at these systems and how they fail. And you were hearing Keisha talk about some of the wraparound services that Literacy Pittsburgh provided. Why is that so important? And transition to Catapult Greater Pittsburgh, why is it so important that we take this time to get our GED, to understand more about the economy so we can build that generational wealth and support?
Absolutely, Miracle. And you're absolutely right. So here's the reality. And we just have to listen. Are there white kids who have failed to get their high school diploma and get their GED as well? Absolutely. But there is a fact and a truth to white supremacy. It exists. It is real. It is directly connected to institutional racism. And if you think that education is not part of institutional racism, I have news for you. I could sit here for another hour and talk about the small things that led up to every one of these children signing themselves out of school without me, without my permission at 17 years old. Everybody being able to walk into their school and sign a piece of paper and walk away from their education, etc. There's a whole lot of things that led up to that. Okay. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is people not having this clear understanding of the psychology of poverty and understanding that poverty is at the root of people deciding at such a young age that their life is over, that I can't do that this is the end of the road for me. Just imagine for a second, young people, so young, who have had such limited experiences, thinking that this is the end of the road for me at 17 years old. Mm-hmm. Right? And so as a parent, again, I'll say, yes, 100% accountable, 100%. I take accountability for, all of my lack in that space, but I do not take full accountability. It's not just on me as a parent. There was a failure in that education system along the way that contributed to that. And so for Black folks, living in poverty, living in communities of poverty that are going into these school systems that lack or choose not to understand how poverty plays such a huge role on how a child performs in school is an issue. And it's just the beginning of the issue, because then it floats out into the rest of our society. It impacts how we get jobs. It impacts how we get career building opportunities. It impacts how even our children that do graduate from high school, their ability to get into college and what that means for them and their family, and how many of our kids are in college and shouldn't be there because they got an education, a pre-college education that set them up for failure in college. So we could go on and on about this, but this is so important because there's already so many built-in obstacles to success as a Black person in this country. This is not one that we have to continue. This is not one that we need to add to that. If you don't have your high school diploma, we already know that it's just another barrier to surviving in this society. And so I'm just super thankful that Literacy Pittsburgh is around and has been around doing this work in this space for so long. And the wraparound programming is so important because it is something as simple as not being able to buy a bus pass, or not being able to get to your class, or my phone is off and now I can't talk to my tutor. All of these little things, these wraparound services are so important for people, first and foremost, to recognize they're not alone. They're not doing this on their own. But every time one issue arises, it's just a reminder for people that this is where I'm supposed to be. Why am I even trying to do this? Because these things are going to keep happening. So doing things to mitigate people quitting, doing things to mitigate people deciding that, oh, well, see, this is what I mean. I can't do this, has to happen. It is exactly why we do what we do at Catapult. It is exactly why we offer basic services, what we call basics. Although people are joining us in a lot of cases because they're here to be a homeowner or they want to start a business, these are folks, for the most part, who are coming from low-income communities, who are bringing their own generational poverty trauma into these spaces. And we know that things are going to happen that could easily knock them off the journey. And we want to be there to fill the gap. Right? We want to be there so we can say, okay, wait a minute, hold on. You don't have transportation to get to, fine, no problem. Okay, we took care of that. Now let's just keep going. Anything that we can do to continue forward motion. And sometimes that looks like something completely different than the mission, right? I will hear people say, well, we don't do that here. Well, you have to. You have to, because sometimes that thing that you don't do is the thing that is going to keep somebody from moving forward in the thing that you do. So we believe that providing these wraparound services are so important to help people feel supported and keep them on track so they can reach these larger goals, because it's so, so important that folks see that they can do it. Because once they see that they can do it, there's no stopping them. Keisha is a completely different person than she was 2 years ago. She is more confident. She is more open to trying things that she hasn't tried before. She is becoming a leader in this organization. And, I'm so happy that she's finding herself much earlier than I did, right? Like I can just see Keisha 20 years from now being I can't even, like, the sky's the limit because she's building that confidence now. She's seeing that the thing that she thought was going to hold her back forever, she accomplished it. She knocked it off. And now that she knocked that off, anything is possible.
Yeah, and we're talking about building that confidence. When it's coming to like what you're doing at Catapult, for people, I think it's very important for people to be seen and be supported. How are your lived experiences impacting the way you deal with like your clients and some of the questions that they may have, buying a home, trying to build up their credit, right? The shame and guilt that you may have had, they have too.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And I think Keisha spoke to that. Like, folks who are going through these issues deserve a seat at the table. They are the people we serve. We are, Keisha and I and the rest of my family, we are the people that we want to serve. Yep. And so, sharing our stories, and this is something I tell Keisha all the time, it's terrifying to share some of these stories because you're fearful that people are going to judge us. We're fearful that, people are going to look down on us. We can't care about that. We can't care about that. We have to show people that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so vocal and I'm so transparent about my own story, because if I could get here, anybody can get anywhere. The things that I have had to overcome are things that killed a lot of people. And the fact that I'm sitting here today is a testament to that. And so for me to not share it and to not be transparent about it in the hopes to inspire and motivate other people to just keep going would be really a slap in the face to the blessings that I've had. So I think being transparent and open, even about the things that cause us guilt and shame, those are the things that people need to hear. Those are the things that people need to get up and just keep going one more day and one more try. So yep. I will always share my story and I will always be transparent because I remember a day, there were plenty of days where I was hiding and was afraid that people would shut the door in my face. And what I found is the more I shared my story, the more transparent I was, the more doors opened. So I think it's really important for us to recognize that guilt and shame are obstacles to success and to progress. So feel it, address it, analyze it, and then dump it and keep moving forward. And we cannot be ashamed, especially to the folks who have reached a certain level of success. I always put that in quotes. We have a responsibility to share what we've been through. There are people who are sitting in the exact same spots that we sat in when it was dark, when it was dreary, and when we wanted to give up. We needed to hear somebody say, "Oh no, sis, I've been there before. You got to keep going. You got to keep forward." I needed to hear that, and I didn't in a lot of cases because people are so stuck in just showing the shiny stuff, just showing the stuff that looks good. And the stuff that looks good, if we're doing that, we're killing people who need to hear that it was dark for us too, and we found a way to persevere and keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's why I thank you again, Keisha, for sharing your story and talking about things that kept you motivated. So can you talk about some of the work that you do now at Catapult?
Yeah, so I'm the enrollment coordinator at Catapult. I've always loved technology. So I came in actually during COVID when, people needed a lot of assistance, crisis assistance, and it was getting really, really busy. So I was I created a process to enroll more people and a way for people not to slip through the cracks. And also I've been getting the opportunity to just do multiple things. In any department that's here, I get the opportunity to kind of learn and see what's happening. But for the most part, I focus on getting people the services that they do need and getting them enrolled into this program, into this organization, I should say.
Yeah, and that's like really amazing because you say you're making sure people do not fall through the cracks. So you're now kind of providing those same wraparound services
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
gotta,
Yep.
and so how have people responded to some of those changes?
I've gotten a lot of good feedback from like my coworkers, and then from like participants. They're just so appreciative, and they feel supported, and that makes me feel so good. I get emails all the time, like, and you can hear through even words that how appreciative people are and how much they needed that at that moment. So that makes me feel good every time.
And
Yeah,
then,
I just want to say, Keisha literally is the go-to person when we are looking at ways to streamline our processes and to make our systems more efficient. Like people say, we need Keisha. Like somebody go get Keisha because we're a small staff, we're a small
Hmm.
shop, and we do a lot.
Yep.
I think people would be really surprised to know how small our staff is. And the reason we can get so much done and serve so many people is because Keisha has helped us figure out how to be more efficient and how to
Hmm.
streamline our processes. She has such an analytical mind that she's able to take these, because I'm not a details person, I'm a big ideas person. So I'll come in the staff like, look, y'all, we gotta do this. And Keisha and the rest of our team have a way of taking that information and breaking it down so that our processes are efficient and so that we can continue to serve more people. We served 1,200 people last year during
that's a
COVID.
lot.
That's a lot of
A
people and
lot of people.
a tiny staff. And that can only be done when your processes are right, when you're efficient in how you do your work. And that's a testament to Keisha, right? That's a
Yep.
testament to taking natural talent and giving people a chance and an opportunity to show you what they can do. I mean,
Exactly.
we worrying about degrees, and degrees are beautiful. I think it's amazing. I love education. I think it's awesome, but it shouldn't be a barrier to people getting a chance to try and an opportunity. So, I'm
Hmm.
thankful that she agreed to come work with us and help us do what we do.
And it's like
Yeah.
really weird to me because I think that I like from the my duties at Catapult Greater Pittsburgh, what makes me good at it is just from my own experiences of signing up
Mhm.
to different programs and noticing like, oh, I didn't like the way they did that. I feel like it would be easier to do this. So that's literally my own experiences of dealing
Mhm.
with different organizations that makes me good at doing my job.
Mhm.
Which is again how we talked about we need people to give more people opportunities and seats at the table
Yep.
and understanding
Hmm.
that sometimes those educational questions are actually gatekeeping and you're creating a lot of harm. And so talking about the opportunities, I want to bring in Dan from Literacy Pittsburgh, who is the career pathways development manager, to kind of continue on this conversation because I think it's like very important that people understand like how these processes work so that they can, have their own, quote unquote Keisha moment so they can like live in their truth and start living and working in the fields that they so desire. And so we want to welcome Dan to the program.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so a part of of bringing you on is if someone enrolls in Literacy Pittsburgh, you're one of the people that they talk to. So can you just talk about some of the work that you do and some of the work that some of the programs that Literacy Pittsburgh offers?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a bunch of different programs, and one of the best parts about what we try to do is make sure that anyone that comes into our doors or falls into our inboxes, we're able to find the right program that fits their needs and meets them where they are. So our real goal is to always make sure that we hear students out as soon as they come in to our programming and find out which one works best for them. And so in the amount of program that we have, like Keisha mentioned, we have the GED programming and we have ESL programming, and we do both trying to place students into classes and with tutors. So Keisha, you mentioned that you were with a tutor and
Yes.
it was kind of better for you because it's
Hmm.
one-to-one. That's exactly what we want at Literacy Pittsburgh. So for both our GED preparatory classes and our ESL tutoring, we have classes that run Monday through Thursday. with accredited teachers. And we have tutoring that are with our tutors that are trained by us, provided resources by us to make sure they meet students exactly where they are. And students that want to get their GED, or our English language learners, or immigrants and newcomers to our community that want to have ESL instruction, they are entirely welcomed. We also welcome students that just want to brush up on their math, or their reading, their writing, their science and social studies. I know I've been on phone calls with students of ours that just want to brush up on these things so they can help out their kids in their classroom. And so we also have the availability for that, for students that want to just get brushed up, as well as students that want to get their GED. And in addition to those, we also are in the process of building out some career pathways programming. Tammy, something that you were mentioning a lot, is what's that on-ramp for students that want to get their GED and get into the career that they want? Where's that Keisha moment, that miracle you mentioned too, that we can kind of take a student that just needs that one little bit to get into their next kind of like wind of their lives. And we have programs for those students that are interested in those areas. So we have something called the Career Accelerator Program. That's a 13-week program that takes students that really want to get their GED in a short period of time, get them through that process, provide wraparound services with a partner at Jewish Family and Community Services Career Development Center, so that their students are getting their GED, getting through the classes with our teachers, while being provided career development, career exploration, and career planning for the areas that they're most interested in. We're actually in the middle of a Career Accelerator Program cohort right now, and we'll be starting up a third cohort in June. We also have something called the Trade Up Program. That's in partnership with the Builders Guild of Western PA. That is specifically geared towards students that want to get into the construction trades, a high priority occupation in this city that has a lot of room to grow are the construction trades. So if you want to get into a construction trade, you first have to get into an apprenticeship program. Unfortunately, having a GED is a prerequisite to get into that apprenticeship program. So how do we kind of create an on-ramp to make sure that those students that want to get into construction trades have the ability to do so? We've partnered with the Builders Guild of Western PA to provide GED programming, GED classes that then get into the Builders Guild's Introduction to Construction Trades pre-apprenticeship program. All of that working towards getting that student from exactly where they are into the construction trades. That's a program that will be starting up for the next 2 years, and we will have cohorts over this summer into the fall and so on. We also have programming that's specifically catered towards the healthcare industry, and specifically catered towards immigrants and newcomers to our city. That program is the Immigrant Workforce Program. So that's 12 weeks working specifically with immigrants that want to get into the healthcare industry. Now, the healthcare industry is a massive idea here in the city. It doesn't just mean direct care. It can mean accounting or technology in the healthcare systems that we have in Allegheny County and Beaver County. And we focus on providing the ESL instruction that is required to be able to get in these systems, but also provide kind of a entrance into the different programming that is across the city, like patient care technician programming that UPMC has, and other introductions to what is out there, just to say, hey, these are the programs that you might be able to tap into. How can we help you get into these programs? So the Immigrant Workforce Program is really focused on providing instruction, providing kind of resume building, cover letter work, networking, networking skills building, and all the things that are necessary to kind of get into that next phase for these students. And then, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish.
Oh, last two things. We have a lot of stuff. I'm sorry. The last two things is we really focus on creating these partnerships with other organizations and other training opportunities. So we work with Bidwell Training Center to provide on-site classes for brush-up courses to get into their programming. And then for employers, because this conversation around students wanting to get into jobs has a whole other side. It's the conversation with employers. And so we want to be able to provide services to employers to help them service the employees that they work with. So we have an employer training services program that works with employers, caters programming for their students, provides classes on site for their employees to help build out their skill level as well.
Thank you for that. So yeah, there's a lot of really great programming that you're doing, and you're also partnering with a lot of nonprofits. But Keisha, when you were coming to the process, did it help you at all to know that there were all of these career pathways that were waiting for you once you finished your test? So you weren't just going to be like pushed out of the nest like once you got like the test done.
Oh, absolutely. But also at the same time, I had I don't want to, it made me feel good, but I was already at a place where there was so much opportunity already around me. But it was good to know that it was there if I did need that.
And so, Dan, is that kind of like the process? Because it seems like with Literacy Pittsburgh, it's kind of learned from like other organizations to create this holistic wraparound programming so that people, no matter who they are, feel encouraged to come in and supported as adults. But for every step of the way, there's like a long-term plan for like their individualized success. Is that a fair assessment?
No, that's definitely fair. And that's something that we really try to use and employ with each student that comes into our programming. Keisha, I know you were mentioning how you felt like Vince was, in your corner always to provide you things. Vince is one of our coordinators, and that's exactly his function. He wants to be someone that's there, that's able to answer any question you have about your education, but also life happens. There are plenty of barriers to being able to get your GED, to be successful in that education, especially as an adult, and especially in Allegheny County and in Beaver County. There are how many different barriers to going along in this process. And our programming is focused on being able to provide those wraparound services. If we can't provide a wraparound service because of our capacity, we have partners that we work diligently with to be able to get you with a person, not just saying, hey, call this number. We're saying, hey, we know this person that can service this need. I'll put you on a phone call with them, with me on it, and introduce you to this person. Our focus is really making sure that in any barrier that pops up along the way to getting your GED, to being with us as a student, to being interested in these career pathways, we're able to either help out directly, find the person that can help out directly, and the entire time making sure that you know that we're in your corner. We never want you to make you feel like you're just getting passed off. And we work very hard to make sure that every person, that comes into our programming has a coordinator that is their point of contact. And for me, I have the programs I mentioned, I'm the point of contact for all these students. And so right now, as I was talking, I got a text from someone that was in one of our programming that was probably checking in about a class that's happening tomorrow. So we want to make sure that we provide all these services, and then we're always accessible to make sure anything that pops up, we're there to be able to talk through it.
Well, you guys did a great job, even down to the tutors. My tutor was fantastic. I don't know what type of training you guys do, but she was amazing. Like, we still keep in touch to this day. I don't think we'll ever not keep in touch. Like, now she's like a part of my family now. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, each of our tutors have in-depth training. And then we don't just say, okay, great, you can go and be a tutor with someone. We provide the training and all of the materials that are necessary to get you where you need to be on.
And then as a person who hires folks, Tammy, and you're seeing this type of program, how happy does it make you feel when you're seeing that there is actual investment in employee development, so that you know that you're going to get a good crop of interviews if they come through these programs?
I think it's very important. I think it's important that we are educating folks who are responsible for hiring, from the smallest, organization on up to the larger organizations that have these tremendously large HR departments, right? We as a society create these ideas in our head about what's acceptable, what an acceptable candidate for employment looks like. And because we have these really stringent, boxed ideas of what that looks like, we're missing out on some amazing talent. We're missing out on an opportunity to invest in our own organizations with people who, listen, somebody who can get through at life without having a high school diploma or a GED and can still navigate this society is somebody you want on your team. That means they have a certain level of ingenuity and creativity that can translate into your workspace. So, I'm a prime example of that. I don't have a college degree. People assume that I have a college degree because I've done a lot of stuff. But I've done a lot of stuff because I've had to. I've had to be creative and innovative about how I do what I do because a lot of doors were slammed in my face because I didn't have a degree, right? So we have to change our thought processes around what value looks like, and who would be valuable and who's not going to be valuable. We have a ton of talent in our communities. We have people who have raw, natural talent that in the right spaces can be cultivated into diamonds. And I think I'm a diamond. Like,
Yes.
you can't tell me I'm not a diamond. There's a lot of people who passed me by because I didn't have, these criteria that they set for themselves, and that's their loss, But there's so much of that happening. I just want us to change how we look at value and what a valuable candidate for employment looks like. We've got to, I think, be more creative thinkers. And sometimes I think it's just a way to purposely keep certain people out of certain opportunities. And that's just that. So as people who are in positions of power to hire people, if you really care about these communities to say the way that a lot of us say we do, we've got to get out of these boxes that have been created to tell us what a viable employment candidate looks like.
Yep. And I want to add one thing to that and say that we know to get your diploma is important. And it's not to say let's just hire everyone who doesn't have a diploma, but to at least, for it to be counted for something like this person is still in school or this person is doing this, or, to not look down on a GED. I think that says a lot about the organization that you work for, is when they're being more human and understand everyone did not get their diploma. Everyone did not just finish in high school. So.
And there's a lot of reasons why that doesn't happen, right?
Right.
And in a lot of cases, it has absolutely nothing to do with the person. It has a lot to do with their circumstances and their environment and lots of things that can get in the way of taking that so-called straight path. So, I honestly can't, if I could call all my staff in here right now, they would all come running in here and say that they believe that Keisha is a value add to this organization. So, it is what it is. We got her. And we're
yeah, I think it was Michelle Obama who said, you grow up thinking that all of these people have to have all of these platitudes, and then you get to these tables and you realize, just because they have this education experience doesn't mean that they're equipped to do their job. And I'm really paraphrasing what she said. Yeah. So it's not a direct quote, but I think it's very important that when we're looking at, especially in nonprofits and building community, where we need to look at the experience and the ways that people can and bring skill sets toward the table, because you don't have to have, trust me, as someone who has degrees, you do not have to have a degree to make a difference, to write a program, to do engagement. And it's very sad that people are kind of pressured into feeling this shame and this insecurity because they do not. And as we wrap up, I just wanted to, because I don't think we've talked about this at all yet. What is the cost for these programs, right? All these programs that you mentioned, because we want to talk about how this is accessible and affordable. What are the costs? What is the cost of these programs?
It was free for me. I didn't pay anything.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's all literacy. That was the one bit that I neglected to say at all. So thank you, Miracle. All of our programming is free. All of our programming is available to students when they want to be in any of the many things that I said. The best way to get in touch is what's in the chat right now. It's just to fill out the short little questionnaire that we have on our website, and then we'll get in touch with you, and you can get set out on your path.
Yes, so I think it's very important because we're preaching accessibility and we're preaching let's getting rid of like barriers, and cost is a huge barrier to
Mhm.
education. Even in high school, you even having to pay for graduation fees and things, and so it's very important that people understand that if you're in Allegheny County or if in Beaver County, all of these programs are free to you, so that you're able to take the test and get this training and support. And again, for ESL, English as a second language, so people who are resettled, even if you're not going to be here for long term, these programs are also available to you. So as we wrap up, do each of you have any words of advice or wisdom that you would like to share with our listeners for today?
Yes, I would say that I hope that I did encourage someone because I was very nervous to get on here. I'm very private. I don't talk about my life, but I felt like for some reason I could never say no. So it must have been meant for me to get on here and share my story and connect with other people who may have been in the same situation as me. And I want to thank all my support system, my family, my friends, my mom, Maylene Myers and Rudy. I'm sorry, Holly Rudoy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm gonna put my mom hat on really fast. I'm just super proud of her, because it's really difficult to know. You see these things for your kid, and for them not to see it is heartbreaking. So I'm just happy that she did this on her own. She took these steps. She made the phone call. She showed up. She had her tutoring sessions. There were times that I would call her and ask her to do something, and she'd say to me, no, because I have to meet with my tutor tonight. So, I'm so proud of how dedicated she was to completing this goal. And I just can't tell her enough how much, first of all, how much I love her, but how proud I am of what she was able to accomplish.
Thank you.
Uh, and I'll just add one thing. I look up to all three of you on this call right now, and I think this conversation has been incredibly helpful, insightful, and just rather powerful. I was listening in the whole call, and I'm really happy that this was put together. I do want to just reflect something that one of our students said a few days ago when I was on the phone with her. She just also passed her GED. She's very excited. She, has a job that she's actually getting promoted on pretty quickly, so she's really excited to share that with me. But what she was mentioning was saying, why didn't I do this earlier? What was it that was saying, no, I can't do this yet. No, I can't do this yet. And I know early in this conversation, there was the conversation around confidence and wanting to, not wanting to share or to socialize in certain ways so that you didn't have to say if you had a GED or not.
Mhm.
And I just want anyone that's listening to know that our organization, myself, we want to be there for you and to say, as soon as you have even the glimpse that you want to start, we'll figure it out together. We'll navigate this together. There's always going to be someone in your corner. And that's the kind of entire ethos of what we do at Literacy Pittsburgh, which is better lives through learning. And we want to be with you the entire time that you're interested in doing this. And so there's never a time that you can't start. And we're always here for whenever you want to get started.
Well, to our panelists, I thank you all so much for joining us. Keisha Young from Catapult Greater Pittsburgh, Tammy Thompson from Catapult Greater Pittsburgh, and Tammy Thompson Consulting, and Dan Lampmann from Literacy Pittsburgh. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. And for those of you who have tuned in, we want to thank you so much for joining us for this community spotlight. And to let you know, you can check the links in the chat. This program will be on One Hood and Literacy Pittsburgh's pages, so you can always come back to view the programming, so that you're going to save the links to GED.com, different websites, and they have evening classes. So please, sign up and engage. We talk about the stats at the very beginning of the show. Pennsylvania has one of the largest proportions of population of people without, a high school diploma or equivalent. And so it's very important that people feel encouraged and motivated and comfortable to seek out these supports, these programs, because they're available to you, and there's so many community supports. So with that, thank you all so much for turning into the community spotlight. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.